Hello, Janksters, and welcome back to another edition of the MagicJank podcast. My name is Graham. I go by Hammox42 on the internet, and I'm joined by members of Team MagicJank as well as friends of Team MagicJank today. We have a very special episode. I'm excited. So first up, we have Carlo C. Ferreira Jr. How you doing, my friend?
Hello. It's fancy seeing you a week later after MagicCon Chicago.
It's crazy. I know, right? Like after seeing, we even shared a shower at MagicCon Chicago. But anyway, that's, it is what it is. Water pressure could have been a little nicer. My only critique of the entire hotel experience. It was great.
Also
in any event. And then, of course, we have a new guest to the show, a new host, in Lachlan, aka LlachNess on Twitch and other platforms, who we also got a chance to see in Chicago. So Lachlan, how the heck are you? Welcome.
He's sad I didn't get to share a shower.
I know, right? You missed out. It was a good time.
My shower.
I mean, not at the same time, for the record.
Water pressure. Had excellent water pressure.
Oh, very jealous.
I'm jealous.
I was sad not to have a tub.
That's fair. We did actually. You know what? We had a tub. I didn't think to use it, but anyway, that's yeah. But it's funny you mentioned that too. We had a very okay. I'm already going off on tangents. Check it out. We're just getting started.
Totally fine.
Our shower knob, we had one of those single knob situations, right, where you turn it up and that turns it on and it changes the temperature. It was labeled that made it look like full blast was at like 12 o'clock and it started down at like 6. When you turned it, that was only halfway. It turned another like 45 degrees, and that was where all the hot water was. And so it was. I definitely had the first morning when we were there, definitely cranked it up. So it was like over the H. I assumed, okay, this is going to get super hot. I'm going to have to turn it down a little bit, but I'll let it run a little bit while I brush my teeth or whatever to like let it warm up. And it just didn't. It was like, what is happening? Anyway.
I had to get out of the shower, go get my glasses, put my glasses on, get back in the shower, and turn the knob. Because I was expecting like the handle to be the indicator, and that is not how that worked out at all. So
Is it poorly labeled showers? Apparently a universal fact in Chicago. So hey, Chicago, you're a beautiful city. Thank you so much for having a lovely convention hall. That, for the record, that's obviously what we're gonna discuss first. I was talking about the con experience and everything. But yeah, thank you, Chicago, for being a beautiful city and being very welcoming to all of us nerds. But come on, your shower labeling game, like, honestly, step it up. That's that's one thing. Restaurants, everything else, beautiful, wonderful. But in any event. But yeah, so I mean, let's go ahead and start there. So last weekend, the three of us got the chance to meet in physical space, hang out, play cards, and be surrounded by like-minded magical nerds all weekend. So I'm curious, what were some of our, I have thoughts, I have ideas, but I'm going to go ahead and kick it to you folks. So Lachlan, as the first timer on the pod, which hopefully this isn't the first of many, but what were your takeaways from the convention experience and kind of what were your thoughts?
One, I mean, Diana did such a I'm wasn't even there in an official capacity, and I mean, she made me feel super welcome. But like all the content creator wrangling she did, and trying to deal with those like the table limitations and like internet, like it's 2024. Like not having internet at that end of the hall was just like but overall, like 10 out of 10 would do again. Like it felt very, despite the fact the convention hall was ginormous. I mean, I don't know about you, but I got dropped off at the wrong end the first day and had to walk across like forever to get into the con hall.
Oh yeah.
Once you were inside, it actually felt very intimate, as though everything were in reach. Not the greatest experience trying to play I paid to play Modern on Friday night. I wanted, because I don't live anywhere near where I can actually go and play Constructed, and all my friends are just solely Commander players mostly. That was a little hard trying to compete with the main stage event noise, and I gather other tournaments had even more difficulty than I had. But yeah, like I think that they did a great job laying that out and having enough space for everybody from where the signatures were happening to the booths to like Magic Kids to the family area. I mean, I lived on the couches for 3 days, so I mean that was pretty good. So
Those
yeah,
are also sweet. Yep.
yeah. So I guess my only thing was I really wish the internet had been a little better. I know like people like Cop were trying to stream, and they were trying to stream things like Gunners, Commander Sealed, and Mr. Beavers' Chat Chaos. Like some of the things that would have been really nice for people who couldn't come to be able to see. So that was you know, I'm sad for them that I didn't get to stream. But I thought it was a fantastic experience. I think that you know the organizers did a banger job, and even bringing food inside. Like if you were hungry and willing to pay enough, there was food on the outside edges, and it wasn't bad food. It wasn't horrendous food. So, yeah, and water was everywhere. Like in past experiences I've had at large cons, trying to find water. But there were water stations like everywhere. And after the first hiccups on Friday when they went empty a couple of times, I mean, someone was really on the ball, constantly replenishing those. I don't think I went without water after that first afternoon if I wanted it. And there were glasses. Like if even if you didn't have your own water bottle, there was a way to get water, and that cannot be underestimated.
Oh yeah, the people refilling those and when we say water stations, by the way, they were like water coolers, like office style water coolers that were available. Yeah, like every, I don't know, 20 feet or so between the tables. They were just all over the place, freely available. They weren't charged or anything. And yeah, the people refilling those, absolute angels who kept everybody, you know, upright and conscious all weekend. It was huge. Yeah,
these 2-ounce little cups. They were nice 6-ounce cups where you could glass of water and you know be able to get hydrated. So that I think was really key, and it shows, I think, an increasing respect for the people who are paying that money to go into the con and how important it is you stay hydrated. Like that, because that's not been that way in the past. Because I've been kicking around these things for 30 years, right?
Sure.
And this had, I think, in a lot of ways, really demonstrated a lot of respect for who was going and the changing composition of who goes.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Carlo, how about you? What were your takeaways and thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it was great. It was the first sold out MagicCon, right? So you had to imagine there were going to be a ton more people there that were in Vegas, for example, when we went there. Definitely way more than were at Philly this time last year. And, you know, the hall was ginormous. Like, you were taking your time to walk even across just where MagicCon was. To get to MagicCon was a rather long walk, right? Unless you found the secret entrance in the back to get like an Uber driver to drop you off to or something like this. I mean, we were walking from our hotel Skybridge, and it was a walk.
Oh yeah,
we got to go through the dental convention. That was fun. So we had, you know, one con to get to the next. But it was fun. It was a great time overall. You know, obviously we stood in the queue line on Friday to get in there in the morning, but right when the clock clicked 10 o'clock and they were letting folks in, it was pretty smooth from there. The lines at the Ultra Pro booth were like extra long because they had those exclusive mats that they were giving around. So I got myself a new hat, and I always like to get a new hat when I go to a MagicCon. And this one happens to have Bolas on it. Hello. And so that was a must grab, but we had to wait until later in the day to shop for normal items from the shop. The MagicCon official show store was always an insane line. This is the first MagicCon I didn't get something from the official show store because it would have required me to stay in line for a couple hours. So, but the plus side is you can order stuff online, right? So in case you couldn't get something that day, so I'll have to definitely check into that. In terms of the play, Friday was great. For me, I was doing a lot of the creator stuff on Friday. So Friday, I got to play in Mr. Bever's Chaos Commander with the Commander mechanic, with Mike, with Mental Misplay. Alan was there. And that was my first time playing Chaos Commander. And it was crazy. It was chaos, dare I say. people from the crowd could come up and spin this inflatable 20-sider, and whatever it landed on affected your game action. So basically, every other person's turn, we were flipping our decks upside down and playing from the bottom of our deck instead of the top. I was playing my Planeswalker deck because I figured we need to play a little higher powered here, and I made more token copies of my Planeswalkers than I cast that game. So imagine me, on my Infinite tokens, just like writing out card names and what they do. So that was fun and exciting.
I love it.
I kept flipping the deck back and forth. So I would when the deck was like the normal orientation, I'd like make a copy of Thrasios, and of course Thrasios went up on the bottom, and then I'd flip it over, and then I'd play the Thrasios.
Yeah.
And you flip it back, and you end up going back and forth between the top and bottom of your deck. It was hilarious.
Yep.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and so that was a fun time. And then I got to walk around and play Commander with everybody. So it was pretty nice. I can go up to tables and say, "Hey, you need another for Commander," and just sit down and have a fun time and meet some new people. And it was a good time overall. I was kind of saddened that on Saturday, half of the main free play area in the con became on-demand Commander events only. Because at that point you could not find a free play space to sit down and play. And what that caused, even though there were other free play areas in the hall, there were a few scattered around, which were always constantly full. And then there was the agency, so the setup of Ravnica's agency that you could sit in, but they were all full. Then there was the free play area right outside of the Pro Tour, that was always full and crammed, like chair to chair type crammed. Yep. So they could have spaced that out a bit more, but that's more the convention hall critique than anything else.
Right.
But you couldn't even find a space there. So you had folks who were like downstairs away from the con playing on the big round tables. You had people who literally played up on the floor.
Yeah. And they brought like that whole space downstairs with the round tables. There was a small area that was full by the will call that originally was meant to be kind of a free location. But then when it became clear that like the hall was being absolutely overrun, they brought out a ton more tables and put them down there. So if any pictures that you see from the convention hall that almost look like they're taking place like in the back rooms where it almost looks like it's kind of like warehouse vibe. That was down in that area that clearly had not been intended to be a space where people would like hang out and spend a lot of time there. Otherwise they would have probably put up some kind of decoration.
And that
some
just
kind
tells
of something.
you
but
like the volume, the amount of people that were at this event. It was like none other. And there was no downtime. If that makes any sense, with MagicCon only being 3 days long, there was something for you to do at all points and times during the event.
Oh yeah.
And the hall was open until 12 for a few of the free to play areas. So people weren't leaving until like 2:00 in the morning to go back to sleep and get up and go again the next day.
Absolutely.
It would be nice if we got like a 4-day MagicCon. Right, like start on Thursday, and then folks traveling on Wednesday would have another extra day of fun. But considering that this event was sold out, so imagine if you extended it another day, if it would sell out again.
It's possible.
That being said, I think I like the overall experience. I like that we all got to hang out all the time and went out and shared a couple meals together and found a sweet spot in Chinatown that we went more than once, and that was great times.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was really fun. Saturday night, we were hanging out along with a number of other members of Team MagicJank. We were trying to find a restaurant with deep dish pizza. That was the idea, right? Because we're in Chicago. Let's fire some deep dish, right? That was the goal.
Yep.
And huge shout out to Headology, Ariana and Numbskull. They both made a lot of calls trying to find a place. Yeah. No dice, nothing was coming up. Like everybody had waiting lists forever. There was one place that basically just said like, if you come down here, we'll put you on the list, but we're probably not going to get you in before midnight. At this point it's like 8 p.m. It's like, no, thank you.
Right. It's like, nope.
We're gonna go ahead and pass on that. And so we ended up just taking taking a Lyft down to, or an Uber down to Chinatown, and apparently the tourist vibe that wasn't there weren't lines in Chinatown. We had a place where we had the table all to ourselves, and the meal was fantastic. So Was it the traditional like Chicago experience? I don't know, but it was an awesome time. Yeah, highly recommend.
I have to
For
confess now
sure.
that I'm super happy that the pizza fell through because
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't like pizza.
Oh, well, that worked out
Yeah.
then.
It's like one of my least favorite meals. I mean, I'll eat it if it's like put in front of me because it's like full of inoffensive ingredients.
Sure.
But like as a food I'm going to choose, it's not high on my list, right? And Benoit and I were talking about this, and we realized that like we were discussing deep dish versus all the other kinds of pizza, and we realized that like if you're not a huge fan of pizza, deep dish isn't going to fix that.
Oh no.
Right? It's
Yeah.
just another. It's probably more of what you don't like about pizza and less of what you do like about pizza in one dish. So I was super stoked to go for Chinese because I don't really get that here in Cape Breton, and it was some really good Chinese food. Well,
Excellent.
it had at least one member of our party who doesn't do vegetables enjoying both the vegetable and the lamb dish.
Right.
It's true. Yeah.
That was good. So
yeah, and me being from Jersey, and we are blessed with the best pizza in the country. Don't at me, but really in the comments below.
No, like, leave all the hate in the comments. Boosie out.
Yeah,
That's a good thing. Yeah, no,
I've never had actual Chicago deep dish pizza, and so Numbskull actually went with our buddy Zactos over to Lou Malante's, which I found out later was like a chain. But brought us some deep dish pizza back to the convention center that I got to munch on after not having anything all day.
Yep.
And it was an experience. I mean, the pizza was good. It actually tastes like pie crust.
Yeah, that particular one.
Place.
Yeah,
so
Lou Malante's had an interesting crust situation. Yeah.
The sauce was good though. And then had a bunch of toppings and stuff. But it definitely was way different than we have here in Jersey. So, I mean, I guess we got to experience it a little bit. And I wasn't mad because we were super hungry at that given time. We kind of like exiled ourselves off to the side. We found some random table, just start setting up pizza. Who wants some? Like, it was great.
And that was a good time too, because we were a couple of us were just kind of hanging out. Off to the side there was like a table that was clearly placed there to actually block off like a stairway to a spot we weren't supposed to access, but it was a table, so we put our stuff down on it. Yeah, and then Numbskull and Zactos walked up with pizza.
Con experience.
Set it down like perfect. This is exactly what we needed. And that was one of those times. It was like 5 p.m. And it hadn't occurred to me that I hadn't eaten anything all day until they were like, by the way, there's pizza here. Like, grumble, grumble. Oh, yeah, let me get in on that. Yeah.
That's the thing about these cons, right? Like, you just end up doing so much. And we're thankful for the water stations because, like, you forget to hydrate. You forget to eat. And it's not that you aren't hungry. It's just, oh, wow, the spot opened up. Now I can sit down and play. And then you're just, like, super hungry afterwards. And there was an overabundance of food options in the convention center if you didn't want to leave. That was actually like good food. Granted, con prices as you can expect. But actually pretty good food, I would say. I didn't have the pizza in there though because I don't trust con pizza. But it just can't.
Not. I will say. So I had a thing happen on Saturday which caused a couple of you to panic, and so like food arrived like just in my face, like eat this, and I'm like, well, food actually isn't my problem, but I'm not gonna say no to food.
Right.
So there was a pizza and there was a pulled pork sandwich, and I gotta say the pizza was not the worst pizza I've ever had.
Okay.
Excellent. Which for somebody who doesn't like pizza is actually tantamount to a ringing endorsement. And and the pulled pork sandwich and the meat was not tough. It was fairly well. The barbecue sauce was fairly well spiced. The bun wasn't soggy. Have 100% paid way more for way worse food inside of those.
Oh sure.
Like, food is notoriously bad. So, and having that amount of protein, probably not a bad thing to get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And sort of as like a last moment making of the con, I guess, for me. I did, have the opportunity to have one of those creator spots where it was a meet and greet on Friday. And, Diana does an amazing job with the creators. I mean, Locke already went over this, but, they give you things to be able to hand out. So, like, even though I had, like, my own tokens and stuff that, like, we handed out during that time, Diana and Wizards of the Coast gives the creators product to like hand out to the people who are coming to see you, and even like little tchotchke giveaways. So like we had these pins that were like the Planeswalker symbol pins that we were able to hand out, and they actually gave me some. Yes, there you go.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah.
And
Got you.
they, yeah. And they actually gave me some Commander Masters collector boosters.
Oh wow.
To do a little giveaway with. And so I did this little thing where I opened up a collector booster of Commander Masters, and I just shuffled the cards face down and I spread them out. So every time somebody came over to the table, I would say, here, I have one of these, like pick one of these cards. I don't know how many rares have been pulled out of here, because it's like up to 4 or maybe more in those packs. Like pick something and you leave with a little surprise, right? And so I will never forget this little kid. I mean, had to be like no older than like 10 years old, like comes over with mom and dad and brother. And so we get to talking, and turns out the dad watches my Twitch channel. So if you're out there, hello.
Rules.
And so they noticed. So that's why they came over. And I was like, here, pick a card. And so every member of the family picked a card. And they got like commons, basically, right? Or uncommons. And then the little kid goes and picks a card, and it's an etched foil Crater Hoof Behemoth. And so imagine the kid's like flipping out, like so excited, and the dad's like, "Oh my god, we never pull cards like this," type of thing. And I'm like, "Oh well, this is definitely like a moment making.
It's meant to
time.
be. Oh, I love it.
And so the dad's like, "Yeah, he can replace the proxy he has in his deck now with the actual card." And I'm like, "Yes, like we want you to be doing this."
Yep.
But yeah, it was a good time. You know, and without, you know, Diana wrangling around the creators in that space, it really allowed for the people at the con to go visit their favorite creator, whether or not they were featured in like a creator like signing spot, but everybody was gathering in that moment. So it's like, hey, we know here's the central location where we can go and meet some people. So yeah, it was a great time.
Yeah, and yeah, so we're talking about Diana D'Amico, who's the influencer manager with at Wizards of the Coast, who like it is fortunately I'm glad it's not a thankless job, because I'm sure it's a sleepless one the weekends of the con. And one of the things that she did, I believe this was her doing on Sunday, when it became clear that we all very much knew how premium table space was. They actually set aside a couple of tables right at the creator area, specifically for creators. Like it wasn't necessarily tied to an event. It wasn't necessarily tied to any dedicated time. It's just, if you were a creator and you needed a spot, you know, you could bring whoever you wanted, and that could be a place to play. And yeah, Sunday, LlachNess and I actually played in, Mr. Bevers did kind of a pickup Commander Seal, or not Commander Seal, sorry, the Chaos Commander, event. He actually ran like 3 pods simultaneously, where he was rolling dice and it would affect all 3 pods. And LlachNess and I were in the same pod, and it turns out when you are playing a blue-white flyer deck, and you get to start with, a Skycat Sovereign in play, it turns out that's pretty good.
It's pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, also I want to give a huge thank you to LlachNess for a Pride of the Clouds, which I was missing in that deck. And they just pulled it out and like, by the way, do you have one of these? And it's like, no. Oh my goodness. So I have that now, and I'm very excited. Thank you.
That is hands down my all-time favorite Magic card.
It's so good. Oh.
I've had 4 of them since Conflux. Forecast is like one of my favorite mechanic. Like if I could pick a mechanic to come back, that would be the mechanic I would like to see come back. So when we played in the Gavin's unknown event to support the Trevor Project, Kaya's Crossbow was one of the cards I opened.
Oh yeah,
it has Forecast 0, and
wow.
I was like, so happy to see a Forecast card that I didn't care it was a bad card. I just really like Forecast.
Doesn't matter. Let's run it. Yep.
So I've held on to those 4 cards through moves and house fires and hurricanes and everything else. And only for you, Graham, would I have parted with one of my Prides of the Clouds.
I'm honored, and you were gracious enough to sign it for me too. I don't think you can. In the folks on the video, I don't know that you can see. Yeah,
wrote something stupid on the side of it too.
Yes,
that's just me.
Which I love though. Yes, When Cats Fly, which is just delightful and super fun. And so yes, this is in my Gwahir the Windlord bird deck. It's an elemental cat. It's not a bird, but I'll make an exception. It's more than worth it. Yeah.
Cats and birds, and when cats make birds better.
Exactly.
Right? So
yeah, it's fantastic. So yes, thank you for that. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Well, so when Gunnar did his event, right? There were a few people who he had invited to play, and then there were open seats, and we kind of just spread through the convention and kind of just picked regular people and said, would you like to come and play in this event? And the fact that Diana provided the product to make that possible, right?
Oh
so
my
you
goodness.
get someone who's never ever had a chance to play in a Commander sealed event. I mean, what's that, 11 or 14 packs of cards per person? I mean, for a lot of people, that's a cost prohibitive thing to play in, right?
Sure.
And then when you get to play in an event like that, when probably half the pod were creators, it changes the vibe a little bit, right?
Oh, sure.
So, like, I know in my pod, because it was Cop, I, and Mark, and then the random person we pulled in, we were able to set the tone in terms of, here are my legends. What have you got? I'll give you this, and like really to kind of allow people to get the chance to build the best deck they could without playing like value police or like, I want to keep these cards because I don't want someone else to get the cards. And it really did set a tone that I think made the event very different. And that doesn't happen without Diana in the background handing that product out, right? And then the 2 drafts I did with MagicJank, right?
Yes.
Again, we got some people playing with us in the first draft that like Benoit hadn't really drafted before.
Yeah,
right?
There were a number of folks who I don't believe had ever drafted in person before. And it's like, yeah, let's do it. It was fun.
Thing to do for the first time, especially in a set like Murders at Karloff Manor, because the mechanics are not straightforward, right? They borrow from other mechanics,
right?
And so giving people the chance and just sitting around on couches and doing it, like couch coffee tables, really had great. The vibe on that was really cool. And again, that doesn't happen without Diana, right?
Right. Yeah. And it set up a nice vibe that we were actually able to do that at the little creator couches because there wasn't play space for us to find a spot, right? Nope. I remember Benoit was going around and like looking for space and couldn't find it. But it also caused a little crowd to like form around us when we were drafting because we set up at like the middle couch and then folks were watching us draft and then we were playing the games, and even though we were only playing like 1 game apiece, it was still fun and let us play all of our cards, and we were drafting with amazing drafters, right? We always joke and say Headology is like the end boss. So how can we get to the end? And then we got to do that other draft with Melissa DeTora, and MTG Nerd Girl was there.
And Nerd Girl, yes.
Yeah, and it was a great time, and we got to draft Ravnica Remastered. And I personally had not drafted that set before, so it was a fun time being able to Court of Calling for Prime Speaker Zagana. Like, who's ever done that? But I got to do it, and it was fun and exciting. And my round 1 opponent was Melissa DeTora, and we had an amazing match. Like, even though I got destroyed in the end in a game 3, we got to reminisce about the days of Golgari Guildmage and how it was a different card when it was originally released because Damage used to use the stack, which made Golgari Guildmage so much better. So it was interesting to see how the older Ravnica cards interacted with the new Ravnica cards. And I got to ask her about her favorite cards from Karloff Manor that she helped design. And she said the one that she actually liked the least was the Mole God.
Really?
Yeah. Huh. She was like, the one I like the least among these is the Mole God. And I think it was because like of the play experience with it in Limited. Like, if you block, you're dead. If you don't block, you're also dead. Type of an experience.
If you don't have targeted removal right away, you're just
dead. Tails, you're dead. Yeah, Tails, you're also dead. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so
worth
it was,
4 man,
it
I'd
was a
say.
fun it was a
Yeah.
fun time, and I was glad I got to participate in that because the last one, Hamhawks and I sat out in Vegas to sort of record the content
Yep.
that was going on, and we let the limited masters go at it. So
Indeed.
it was a fun time. It was,
Yeah,
it was fun to play.
Yeah, and I do need to say, while we were sitting there, actually, I need to mention this to Isaiah directly. But Melissa did ask if Isaiah had joined us, and was disappointed to hear that he hadn't. So just putting that out there, which was
That
pretty
just
fun.
means Isaiah's got to come to Vegas in October. And
I mean, can't disappoint Melissa DeTora. That's know, absolutely, yeah. Missing out on the draft in Vegas was a bummer, but I was actually seated between MTG Nerd Girl and Melissa DeTora, which, I mean, being able to take packs from one of them and pass it to the other, knowing full well that they were both pulling, like, way better stuff out of those packs. Like, I got to pass Melissa DeTora a Mayhem Devil that, she immediately scooped, as I understand it.
100%.
And, it's like, well, all right.
I was on the receiving end of that, thank you.
Sorry about that, yeah. I could have prevented this. I could have.
It was between Carlo and MTG Nerd Girl, and I'm just... Okay.
It's all good. No worries. Oh,
like, looking at these cards, and I'm like, "Oh, this is not good." And I thought I was so proud of myself because, okay, pack 1, I took all the fixing, right? So I took all the Simic Guild Gates. I took so I was like, okay, so hopefully I've cut off the fixing, right?
Yep.
And then I just got no creatures.
Oh yeah.
And still managed to take Hedology, like, to the last 9 cards in her deck in game 3. It was like, yeah. Because then I sat down with Hedology as my opponent, and I'm like, wow, okay.
Well,
so and boss early today.
It's already gone badly enough, right?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, incredible. But yeah, it was super fun. Like, I gotta say. And yeah, the box that we were drafting out of was, donated by Wizards of the Coast. So, huge thank you to that kind of support. It's funny because there were just pallets upon pallets of boxes, wheeled into that event. And there weren't pallets upon pallets of boxes leaving. Instead, there were a whole bunch of carry-on bags just littered with new cards, which is always delightful. So
I give a shout out to to you guys and to the other creators I saw who were collecting their bulk at the end. It went all over to Magic Kids.
Yes,
and that was
super cool,
right? Like, product that didn't cost me anything. I pulled out the 3 or 4, or I had someone go through and pull out cards that were cards I was probably going to use, and then I didn't even think about the rest of them. I just scooped them all up over to Magic Kids. And that was pretty cool too to see people doing that with their cards and really recognizing what a great cause that was. But
yeah, absolutely. Well, and yeah, huge shout out and props to Magic Kids in general. Like, we don't have an official partnership or anything. They're just doing great work by getting resources to schools and other organizations that can get kids involved in Magic, because a lot of the bulk that we think of as being worthless as entrenched members of the community, when you build decks with that, they actually play really well against each other and can really engage and get kids interested in Magic. So huge shout out to Magic Kids for that. Love it.
Makes you learn the mechanics a lot easier too.
Absolutely.
Considering how much text are on cards these days. And they had a really nice setup over there, and you can go and sit down and help kids or just newcomers to Magic learn how to play. And they had some amazing creators over there helping them out, right? So it was a good setup all day. They run a really good ship over there, and I always make sure that we're at the conventions to stop by and say hello, or just ask, like, hey, how can I help? And it's nice to see the map that they have on their main table grow every time you go, how many different schools they have helped out there, and the little dots on their map continue to expand every event. So that's always nice to see.
Oh, that rules.
Really good conversation with them. They typically don't go outside of the US. And I'm in the middle of nowhere, as Beth likes to say, I live in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. But we're going to see if we can get some support for a couple of the schools that I work with, which is really cool because poverty is a big thing here, and trying to get kids just anything outside of and it can be an expensive hobby to get into.
Sure.
So yeah. Can I just say my highlight moment, and it shouldn't be my highlight moment because I should be over this by now. But but I got to bury the lead in storytelling and like, on the weekend where it's like, I actually won that Commander Sealed event that I played in, and I beat Benoit in the draft I played in, and then I got smashed in the face for 16 in the air in the Commander in the Unknown event by Mark Rosewater. With Jimmy Wong in the background mugging for the camera. Which I didn't realize until, so you've both met Fabian, my co-host on the Two-Headed Giant stream. And so I sent Fabian the picture. Someone took a picture of my playing Mark Rosewater and gave it to me. And I sent this picture to Fabian and said, so this happened. And Fabian's response is, oh my God, Jimmy Wong's at MagicCon and I'm not there.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, look at my opponent. And he's like, not gonna lie, not really sure who that is. And then I just kind of just wait for a moment, right? Because I'm kind of waiting for him to think his way through this. And he's right, wait, not Mark Rosewater. I'm like, yes, Mark Rosewater. Like, thank you. That was the part. It felt like that scene in Juno, right? Where, they're all talking about and she's like, oh, you're pregnant. That was the reaction I was kind of waiting for, right? So I will admit that actually getting to play a game against Mark Rosewater, and the joke was, I lost to a Moldavine cloak on a flying double striker after having Eyes in the Sky played, right? Like,
that's
like
classic.
Most old school way possible to get kicked in the teeth is how Mark Rosewater kicked me in the teeth, and it was glorious. And I will treasure that ass kicking for the rest of my life. But in terms of a Magic moment, of course, hanging out and meeting you guys was all like the true highlight. But the secret joy inside my heart of actually, getting to play, a game against somebody whose career has defined a huge portion of my life, right? Whether it was playing in tournaments or going to events or driving across the country listening to his podcast. Right, because I'd run out of music that I could stand and listen to. So yeah, just getting to have that experience was kind of cool, right? So not gonna lie, definitely a highlight. Also having my Fibblethip map, absolutely, like, I don't think there's room for another signature on that mat. That mat was pretty covered. And so I can look at that mat and I can see all your names. And I was on the stream the other night and there was is that Steve Farfetto Jr.? And I'm like, yeah, because yours is like 6 inches and really clear, right? As opposed to tiny little ones, right? So
love it.
It's a lot of fun. 100% would do again.
Yeah.
Wouldn't do that, so.
Yeah. No, it was, I didn't have any run-ins with Mark Rosewater other than like seeing him walk around. But there was so many. If you are into Magic, these conventions are just filled with the S-tier celebrities, absolute royalty. You just see them walking around. Whether that's, there was one point where as I was walking through the hall, there was a gentleman walking back the other direction, and we just passed, and I had a moment of realizing, like, wait, that was Javier Dominguez. It's like, if you follow Pro Magic, it's like, oh, world champion, the fervent champion himself is here. Like, okay, wow. And it's like, of course he is. It's the Pro Tour going on.
Seth Mansfield, right?
Yep.
So I went out. So I used to grind. Not many people know that, but I used to do the GP circuit back when the GP circuit was a thing. And so I've met a lot of those players in a variety of contexts, right? Not just as like fan person, but also like, across the tables. So I went out into the Pro Tour area after they announced the event was over, because I was looking for Manny Devoutty.
Sure. Yeah.
Who's a friend of mine from Vancouver and whose hotel room floor I've slept on in the past at like GP Sacramento and stuff. Who I'm just pleased as punch to see went from winning like, Grand Prix, I want to say Dallas or Austin. He's won a couple, and to actually like leveraging that grinding into like not the Pro Tour career I think he originally wanted, but the Pro Tour career we all deserve from him, which is him as a caster, just absolutely knocking it out of the park, right?
Absolutely.
So I'm out looking for Monty, and I run into Seth, and so I feel like we're face to face, and there's an obligatory "I must congratulate you for your win," right?
Sure.
And to have him recognize that he knew who I was, even if he couldn't put a name to the face, was actually kind of like one of those. Like those, oh, cool. Or like, like Manny's already left and the guy going, there's this girl down here who says she knows you, and Manny texts back, yeah, she does. And because it's like, oh wow, does he rightly have fans enough that we need to gatekeep access to Manny now? Because he should. He's adorable and awesome, and he should have lots of people trying to get to his hotel room. And then going over and sitting in the lobby con, right, and just eating dinner, and then turning around and Monty's just standing there because he's actually come down. Like those are the moments for me, right? Like having not seen him in the better part of a decade, and him hearing I was there and taking the time to come down from his hotel room and say hi, like that made the trip to Chicago worth it, right? Those. Getting to meet Ari in person, getting hugs from you guys in person. Those were the moments. And seeing so many other people, right? Like seeing Cooper Lee just explode the joy in the place with I broke mine and my fifth graders put it back together again because that's what fifth graders do in after school programs, right? Like, but watching the joy that Cooper brought with like the little name tags that he brought, and then the rat colonies, and watching that explode, and like watching Twitter and see where these rat colony bands are ending up, right?
Yeah,
super fun.
It was glorious.
He didn't do that for anything other than to bring people joy, right? There was no clout chasing. There was no. It was just like I made these because I want people to be happy, and to see. To see Cooper get that joy back again, like that was MagicCon, and that's the magic of MagicCon to me, anyway. So,
no, fantastic stuff.
I'll stop talking now.
No, it's all good. I mean, that's what that's why we wanted to have you on, because
I can rave about
talking is what we do. But little things like the rat colony wristbands, I think are a great example of
colony, right?
I think they're kind of brilliant because like on no point does this bring you back to any of Cooper's stuff. Like this isn't a promotional thing. It's just a fun thing they wanted to do for the community that makes people smile. And it's like somebody giving you a free thing at a convention. You're never going to be like upset by that. And it's like, a little friendship bracelet. Sure, I'll put this on. Why not? And it's like, we're the rat colony. That's kind of fun. And we get to be a part of something together. And it's, I don't know, it was just such a nice way to tap into kind of the vibe of the whole event in a very meaningful way that resonates and sticks with you. And it's funny. Like I didn't put this on for the recording. I've been wearing it for the last couple of days just because it's fun.
I'm picking it up.
Yeah. So, and in any event, so MagicCon Chicago, absolutely amazing. Future MagicCons, I know we have one coming up in Vegas. There's also one coming up in Amsterdam for folks who are able to make that happen. Awesome. I have no doubt it's going to be an amazing event for folks who are into that. Modern Horizons 3, let's go. I don't have, thousands of dollars to cover travel from where I'm at right now, unfortunately. Otherwise I'd be so there. You have no idea. But,
I don't have any more faux sick days I can take off from work.
Other cost of the cons, yes.
I literally went to my GP and said, I need to be off from this day to this date on medical leave. I need the mental health break. And my GP dutifully said, you know what? You've had a sucky couple of years. I very much 100% support you taking a mental health vacation.
Love it.
So
that's fantastic. Well done. Yeah. Good stuff. So while we were there were a number, we talked about the play experience, the vibes, being able to meet up with folks. Honestly, just getting hugs and being able to talk to people in person. Like I finally met Amazonian in person. We've been kind of like hovering around each other on Twitch forever, and finally, like in physical space, got to say, hey, thanks for being awesome, which was really cool. And I got to hug Anna Margaret on her birthday, so I won the con as far as I'm concerned. That's all I needed. So great stuff all around. But there were also a lot of panels and a lot of big announcements that were made, including previews for a number of upcoming sets. Pretty much everything that we're going to see throughout this year, they did a little sneak preview, releasing a couple of cards from, I believe, every single set that we're going to see the rest, except Duskmourn, the last one. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we haven't seen anything from Duskmourn yet, but Bloomburrow, Thunder Junction, Modern Horizons, they have, and Assassin's Creed, they have trickled some teasers out there to get people excited. And I kind of wanted to talk through a couple of those cards. I mean, there are, it's funny, it doesn't look like a lot until you realize that we each probably have like 10 minutes of thoughts on all of them. So let's dive into it, and we'll cover what we can today. And I want to get started with Thunder Junction, because it's the next set that we're going to see that's coming into Standard. And this one is kind of an interesting release. So we have the main set, which is the core, 200 plus cards. Oh, yes?
No, I'm keeping track.
Oh, yeah, okay. So we have the main set. Thank you. I appreciate that. So we have the main set, which is, the core standard legal set. Great. Groovy. Now, we also have a bonus sheet coming in, which is called Breaking News. And this is similar to the special guest kind of treatment that we've seen before, where these are big bombs that have an opportunity to shake up limited, but they're not going to be standard legal. Okay, so we have those in there too. Then we also have another bonus sheet that is going to be available in those packs called the Big Score bonus sheet. Not to be confused, of course, with the standard legal card of the same name. And that's kind of the treasure that these outlaws are trying to get from the vaults, which flavorfully, okay, neat. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. But that is a bonus sheet in the boosters that is going to be standard legal, because originally that was slated to be an epilogue product similar to the Aftermath, where they wanted to do the little bonus tack on. The problem is, March of the Machine Aftermath was historically a maligned set that didn't really sell the way they wanted it to. Turns out, having 30 some odd unique cards and 5 card boosters, people weren't super jazzed to crack a bunch of them, and drafts 50. Weren't a thing.
There were 50.
Oh, it was 50?
50.
Okay. It could have been a dozen. It felt like they were
fully executed, I think, was the problem.
Yeah. Yes. At the end of the day, the release wasn't exciting. People weren't interested. Also, that was the set where the Pinkertons showed up. So that was a fun element of the release as well. And so regardless.
It's a weird thing to me, right?
Right? Yeah.
Buddy does something he knows he ought not to have done.
Yep.
Right? It doesn't, he knows, 100% knows he's getting these things when he's not supposed to.
Yep, 100%.
And does the thing he's not supposed to do with them, right?
Right.
He could have just, held on to it for a couple of weeks and still been the first person to have it out there.
Right, easily.
Postage, right?
Yeah, fun fact, you can record the video and just schedule it for 2 weeks out. It's going to be fine. Yeah.
Wizards does the thing that all companies have to do to protect their intellectual property that everybody can see coming a mile away.
Right.
Make one little error, and that's Pinkertons.
Bit of an overreaction. Yeah.
Well, I don't think they overreacted at all. I think that they sent someone to retrieve the product. Right? There was no jailing involved. There were no, the problem was who they sent. It wasn't that they sent someone to retrieve the product. It's that Pinkertons is such a loaded name.
Sure.
That was it. There was no walking that back. Right?
And in all of that, yeah. In all of that, I also found out that the Pinkertons are located out of, their global headquarters is based out of Ann Arbor, Michigan, which is less than an hour down the road from me.
Right? Watch out, Ham, they coming.
So,
they could come shake me down and sleep in their own bed. I don't like that idea at all. But anyway.
Well, they send the Pinkertons, and because they send the Pinkertons, everybody kind of forgets that dude did the thing he knew he ought not to have done.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
How he gets 100% absolved of that.
Right.
Because they sent the historically loaded bad guy. It was just many things in that to unpack.
Yes. So. But in any event, yeah, the fact of that whole ordeal, I love the fact that it was around Aftermath, of all things. They wanted to keep the lid on Aftermath, because clearly we'll all lose our minds for this thing. Come on, guys. And
expecting there to be a card in the Thunder Junction set that is a bad pun off of this.
I hope so. If the Pinkertons aren't somehow referenced.
If I were a designer at Magic, there's no way I'm releasing a Cowboy and Outlaws set without making a veiled Pinkertons joke. There's just no way.
I sure hope so. I sure hope that's in here.
One of the wanted posters.
Yeah.
Easily could be.
Yeah. A little art, a little background, right? Just this little tiny thing in the background. Yeah.
So one other sheet in here.
Oh, there is another sheet?
The regular special guest sheets. that they're doing with every set now. So the star symbol, which is regular special guests.
Wait, really? There's a special guest sheet in addition to the
Every standard set is going to have the special guest sheet with cards that are not standard legal that have that star symbol. So like the show and tell from the last set,
right?
Mana Crypt from Ixalan, so on and so forth. Small number of cards. I think it's somewhere between 8 to 10, but they are there and they are draftable. Plus the list.
That's right. So there's
the list
in the play boosters.
There's OTJ, which is the main core set.
Correct.
There's OTC, which is the commander cards. So those are in a different set.
Yep.
But in your packs, in your play boosters, you can get OTJ.
Right.
OTP, which is the breaking news set code.
Right.
You can get BIG, which is the big score set code.
That's right.
And you can get SPG, which is the special guest.
That's right.
Yeah, so there's
four plus the list, so 5.
Play booster.
And you pre-release is going to be wild.
Yeah, and the cards that would originally be in the epilogue boosters have their epilogue set symbol, which is not the same as Thunder Junction.
No, it's BIG. It's BIG.
Yeah, that's the big score. So let's actually start there. So one of the ones that they've released 2 of these big score cards, and these are again kind of the treasures that the Outlaws are trying to get their hands on. And one of them is Sword of Wealth and Power. I know what you're thinking. They finally finished the Sword of cycle, so we can be done with them. Nope, we got more. Now I can't help but wonder how, what else are we getting in this regard. But yeah, that set symbol that you see on this one for folks watching the video or for folks who just look up the Sword of Wealth and Power. It shows, I'm not even sure. I think it's supposed to be like a vault, like a bank vault kind of thing. So, okay. So that's the big score bonus sheet. And Sword of Wealth and Power itself, stop me if you've heard this one before. It's an equipment that costs 3 and it equips for 2 and it gives protection. I mean, it's pretty novel. I gotta say, it's pretty cool. But in this case, instead of protection from colors, it gives protection from instants and sorceries. So if you're out here with your giant growth, tough luck.
So I think this is better than it sounds.
Sure.
Because so when equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, you create a treasure token.
Great.
And then when next you cast an instant or sorcery this turn, you copy the spell. And you can choose new copies for the target. Okay?
Yeah, also, all great. I mean, those lines of text are all fantastic. Yeah.
Right. But where it's going to shine is, how do you get rid of most artifacts?
Well, cards like a braid.
Right.
Yeah.
Which can't do it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Well, you could this card itself, the sword itself does not have protection. The equipped creature does.
The equipped creature, yep.
Right.
So you could target it and blow it up with an instant or sorcery. So that's nice. Yeah.
Right. But you put this on a roaming throne,
you're gonna have a pretty good day. Yeah.
And it's gonna be like it's already hard enough to get rid of that card.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think there's a few things, like normally these aren't really standard playable, right? Like
the stat boost and whatnot, it tends not to be great by today's standards. Yeah,
but I think on the few things that have ward, I think this now has some edge uses possibly in standard for the first time. And definitely it's going to see play in the alternative formats.
Sure.
Just because of the ability, I mean, to get the treasure tokens and the doubling of the instants and sorceries, like that's really gonna, playing a big score off of this and getting big score to land twice.
It's gonna feel pretty good.
Right?
Very flavorful too.
Getting creativity to trigger twice, like
there are a lot of
on something that's already giving you value in a different way. I think there may be some people busting this card in a way that we don't expect.
Yeah.
And so I'm waiting to see. I'm reserving judgment on the utility of this card until I see a little more about what it can pile on.
Yeah. I'm curious about mid-range decks. I'm curious about like Esper mid-range. I don't know if it could be like a one of in there, because that maybe with a more emphasis on removal. Because, you know, if you can double dip a go for the throat, and if you could put this on a deep cavern bat so your opponent's targeted removal can't even get rid of that to get their sweeper back or whatever, like that could be like the potential here. It's very much here. So it's really going to be interesting to see who can find the best gel for it. Yeah.
Aggro time warp, anybody?
Oh, yeah. That's
here's my power. Let me take extra turns and then keep copying the extra turn spells I cast.
But there's the new white card in Karloff that what is it? Twice something or other.
The commander card that stops extra turns.
Yeah.
Yeah, Trouble in Pairs.
Is that only
That's commander.
Only commander card? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't sure. I haven't done enough murders at Karloff yet, so
sure.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So I'm very curious to see what else shows up. Oh yeah, Carl, go ahead.
This Sword of Wealth and Power,
Mm-hmm.
in its showcase version, we'll have showcase versions that were like Mana Crypt that come in different colors in foiling processes.
Ooh.
So that one you have up on the screen now, for those watching this on YouTube, this is the regular showcase version of this card. But there is also one that come in different colors on the sides and on the top to represent all 5 colors of mana. Like this, which is very pretty.
Oh yeah.
But you can get these. And so that means that there are different numbered versions of Sword of Wealth and Power. In fact, 4 different ones.
I see 91, 64, and 26 on my screen, and 56.
Yeah.
So 56 is the one that you're showing now.
This is 64, but yes. Yeah.
No, I'm seeing 56 as the one with the extended art like that. And then
this 64 has special foiling in addition. So yeah. This is one. Looking at this picture, I have no doubt in holding that in your hand, it's gonna pop. Like I can
100%.
just tell. Like in person, that is gonna look gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, very excited to see that. Just keep an eye on all the various TikTokers out there. I mean, if you're not currently following Seafever Jr. Or Seafever _Jr. Gotta make sure that's clear. On the TikTok, I have no doubt shortly after release this will be you know modeled in front of the camera
somewhere. We have to
somewhere.
Yeah.
It's gonna be around.
Or
so, yeah.
if you casually just want to hear about piggy banks, trying to get some cards sold to them. Hamhawks42 is also now on TikTok, by the way.
I'm ticking and talking. It's true.
It's true.
And I too have ventured into the Tiki Talks.
Hey!
And I'm doing a bunch of RTFC things. Because
I love it.
There's reading the card. Like I'm just doing a bunch of reading the card things because there is enough on cards now that you almost need a primer on like how like not even like interpreting the words, but what are your tips? Like, is this in a different paragraph? Is it in a different sentence?
Oh yeah.
Does it have a colon? Does it have a colon and is this 2 sentences? Stuff like that. So this is definitely one of those cards. So
100%. And that there is a market for that content. To date, one of my most successful YouTube videos ever is literally just a straight to camera explanation of how the heck Lagrilla the Magpie works. So like find the confusing cards and just explain it. You will get crazy views. Keep doing what you're doing. That's great.
What were we playing? So on Monday, Hidology and I had late flights out. So we were hanging out with Edge Case, and then just some random guy who had a late flight too showed up at the hotel to play, and we're literally working our way through Tefari's protection. So Edge Case Tefari'd himself out.
Okay.
But he had curses and other enchantments on our things. Right?
Oh, sure.
Same.
Yep.
They leave with him.
Yep.
Right? So if we then got rid of the things that were enchanted by them, when they come back in, he thought they were going to auto-attach to some other target. And that's not how that works.
Not with phasing. Yeah, exactly.
They come back, they reappear, and by state-based action sends them to the graveyard because there's nothing for them to
Yeah, they
back
are no
in.
longer attached. Yeah, exactly.
If their targets were there, they'd phase back in
Mhm.
attached to the target.
Yeah.
But even blinking the target means it's a different instance.
Yes,
thing.
but if you were to blink the aura, if you blink an aura that's attached, when it re-enters, you choose the new target for it.
The aura was gone. The aura had
Yeah.
gone at protection.
Well, but because it was phased out.
Right.
If it had blinked out with like a there are plenty of cards that can
It gets
blink
the opportunity
enchantments.
to choose a new target because it comes into play attached to a target.
Right. Yeah.
But that's not actually how phasing back in
Yeah,
works.
phasing's very weird in that regard. Yeah.
And that's like, he's been playing that card forever, and I'm like, what? That's not how that works. Yeah, and so I'm kind of excited about that. And
no, that's awesome. Those weird little edge cases. Yeah, that's a gold mine content wise. So yeah.
I'm a little sad though about, like, as somebody who has a limited opportunity to play in a store and has a limited opportunity to actually go in and sit down at one of these events. I've come around to Headology's opinion of the lack of balance in a play booster to start with. They can be wildly color skewed. I find 5 set symbols fighting for 14 slots a bit much, because there's nothing to stop you from having 3 copies of the same card.
It's possible. Yeah. And it's also possible that your final deck, like a final draft deck or a final sealed deck, could being able to actually have 5 different set symbols in a sealed environment, that seems odd to me. Like, I don't.
It makes you wonder how the play boosters are collated with the addition of the epilogue booster cards in them. Because for so many different spots, like, you can technically, out of one play booster, get up to, and not to cause alarm, up to 4 rares and mythics, right? Which makes the sealed deck part of it very interesting. And we went over this after, when we did the cast after the Karlov pre-release. And there weren't people with, like, insane sealed decks that had 24 mythics or rares in them. Like, that didn't happen. But there were a lot of people with 12 rares or mythics in their sealed deck. And that is not something you'd normally get out of the regular, like, sealed experience. You would always end up with, like, I don't know, maybe a foil rare or 2 plus your pre-release promo, so you'd have up to 9 rares or mythics. But the fact that, like you said, Locke, how you can be color skewed, especially in those slots too, and having, like, I'll tell you, out of one pre-release I had 5 total blue cards out of 6 booster packs. And that was crazy to me. And so if like, it was fine, the blue cards weren't that great in Karlov Manor, in my opinion, at least from a limited perspective, but you just don't have the ability to build because you don't get the cards. And then some of the cards have 14 cards in them versus 15 because the art card shares a slot in the booster pack. So from a limited perspective, you don't have the same amount of cards as everybody sometimes to build the deck. I had an experience where I had 3 art cards.
Oof.
Wow. Like, and I like cards, but I don't want art cards in my sealed pool. Like,
no, of course not.
And I traditionally, like, I have to laugh because, like, my perspective on this was skewed because I have the worst pack luck in the universe.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I do not open bomb rares. Like, every once in a while, I'll get a pack that has, like, something in it, and that means the next 20 packs for me, I'm guaranteed to be paying for that. Right? So I've gotten really good at opening the packs and just throwing the rares off to the side, and then just, counting 19 cards of the same color, jamming the land in, and figuring I'm just going to outrace you. Because, right? All my cards are the same color. And, I don't always do that, but in general, if you've got not the greatest bomb pool, then just look for synergy in your commons and uncommons because it's there. And often there's, if you're not screwing with color fixing, you can just be that 2 turns ahead, and that's sometimes enough. Like if the game's gonna go long, you're toast. But if you can nail the game down in the first 6 or 7 turns, like that's it, because the bomb isn't gonna come out till turn 6. So if you can get them on the ropes by then you can win more than you ought to, right? This new play booster thing, my whole that's it. My strategy's gone because it's just like
sure.
Just even trying to find enough cards in the same color was just and even in the draft, right? I ended up I took 4 of those fairy scoopy thingies.
Oh,
not because they're great cards, but because there are 4 great. I'll just keep taking these because at least it's in 2 colors I can kind of work with. And they fly.
Right?
Great cards, but they fly. So yeah,
we'll work with it. Yep.
And I got there with them just basically 1 turn ahead of Benoit the entire time, right? So that was a very different drafting experience, and I'm really concerned about how that's going to play out in Bloomborough, not Bloomborough, in Thunder Junction, because I think some of the bombs are going to want 2 colors.
Sure.
And I don't know what kind of support we're going to have for that, given that I think all of the big score cards are going to be artifacts.
Yeah.
Or they're going to be artifacts with colored activations. That's kind of what I sense coming in the vault cards from that. And so I don't know. I'm the optimist. So when I'm a little bit worried,
Sure.
Speaking of 2-color bombs,
Oko.
We did get to see Oko at MagicCon.
We were all thinking the same thing there.
Leader.
Mr. Thirst Trap.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so finally, as we saw from the art, Oko's back, right? We saw that in the preview art for Thunder Junction, as well as the other characters that are there, which we will definitely go over. And we've been seeing this very common theme, which is Wizards' plan to only do 1 Planeswalker per set. So presumably, this is Oko. And so presumably, we've seen art for Vraska, which likely will be a creature in the set. But taking a look at Oko, Oko is still Simic, so green-blue. Oko does have a static ability, which I will forever say is a mistake on Planeswalkers, even though I love to play Planeswalkers. Oko's static ability says, at the beginning of combat on your turn, Oko Ringleader becomes a copy of up to 1 target creature you control until end of turn, except it has hexproof. So sort of mixing in a little Gideon ability here to make Oko into a creature that you can't target with targeted removal. Its +1 says draw 2 cards. If you've committed a crime this turn, discard a card. Otherwise, discard 2 cards. So it loots, but majorly. We don't know what committing a crime is yet, at least not 100%.
But it rummages.
It rummages.
We know that committing a crime does include targeting your opponent's things.
Oh,
if you target your opponent's stuff, so if you have targeted removal or anything like that, that is committing crimes. Yep.
Oh.
So we know that. I don't believe there's more to it than that, but and I think it spells or abilities. So if you have any kind of pingers or anything that can untap your target creature, any of that jazz. If you're touching your opponent's stuff, you're committing crimes. We all, Commander players already knew that, but now that's officially part of the part of the rules.
This is the set for Amazonian.
100%. Yes.
And so you can -1 on Oko, and you can make a 3/3 elk, green elk, of course.
It's a minus this time. Thank
in
goodness.
The extended art or borderless version, Oko is actually riding an elk, which is definitely on point. So literally, Oko protects itself.
It's pretty rad,
right? By putting the creature out. And then the -5 says, for each other non-land permanent you control, create a token that's a copy of that permanent. And I don't know about you, but I will tell you definitely in my Planeswalker Commander deck, I haven't had the chance to add any of the new Planeswalkers in the last couple sets to it. It's not really that great. But Oko, being able to make token copies of my doubling season, is where it's at. So we will
Gross.
be doing that, and in itself should be considered committing a crime.
Oh, 100%. You'll be committing so many crimes
Yeah.
with that. Oh my goodness.
So you know the Guardian project that you gave me at the end of our draft. Carlos?
Yes. Yeah, good old, yeah. Guardian Project. You love it to see it.
And I also had the copy enchantment card that I got in the same draft. And so I threw them in my Yarok deck. And so I got the Guardian Project out, and then I copied the Guardian Project. You know,
You're having a good day.
Play a creature, draw 2 cards. Like having Oko suddenly give me 4 copies of that is just like you know, committing civic crimes, man.
Civic crimes.
Civic has been committing crimes against humanity and nature forever.
Sure.
So now we're going to get extra rewarded for committing those crimes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I kind of like the fact that Oko has the static, because I mean
Mm-hmm.
Planeswalkers have become such a target.
Oh,
that
sure.
You can't destroy target planeswalker if Oko's a creature.
Yeah.
Right? Like and it's up to, which is also interesting, right? Because you don't have to do it.
Right. Yeah. I'm really intrigued by that. The other thing that I want to note, and actually, you know, Lach, if you want to do a TikTok explaining this, I think here's a cool rules interaction with this. It becomes a copy of the creature, meaning that it stops being Oko. So if you want to use these loyalty abilities, you have to do it pre-combat, or decline the passive when decline the trigger when combat rolls around. Those are your choices. If you want Oko to become a creature for the turn, you are. You know, you'll want to use one of those modes pre-combat. Also, I think the fact that the ultimate is a -5 with a starting loyalty of 3 is really sweet. I mean, a little bit of proliferate, and all of a sudden you're looking at possibly even a turn 1 ult. So, you know, Carla, with your Ichor Moon Gauntlet, situation, I'm just saying, like, you drop it.
I just love planeswalkers that if you have a doubling season out, can ultimate the turn they come down. It's fabulous.
Also fantastic. Yes.
Let's even talk commander part of this, right? Like let's go back and look at some of the cards from March of the Machine, where there's the 1 green that's basically like go and find a forest or proliferate, right? Like
Thirsting Roots. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean you
absolutely.
can you can literally put him out and literally get his ultimate off in the same turn.
Yeah.
And what I think's really funny, at least from like a constructed like standard perspective, is, you know, 1, Oko can protect itself by making an elk, but instead of Oko turning other things into elks, Oko can become the elk.
Yeah.
So whether that's flavorful or not, I don't know. But Oko can certainly join forces with the elk and create an elk army for yourself to be swinging at your opponent with. And I think that is great. Especially if, you know, your turn, you know, I slam this down on turn 4 or before if you got a mana dork, and just make elk, protect Oko. And then you get to untap and you technically can make another elk and then attack with 2 elks. On the following turn, if you're feeling frisky. But it is... I think this is a fantastic card.
We've seen what the Wandering Emperor can do with its 2/2 samurais, right?
Yep.
Like, you know, never mind 3/3 L. So, yeah, I think this is definitely, you know, not quite as powerful as having a flash, like the Wandering Emperor does.
Right, yeah.
But definitely has some... and having an army double... Like
that's scary.
Ultimate, like
the top end, the top end potential on this is nuts. Yeah, you add 1 or 2 mana rocks to the equation, or, you know, mana dorks. You got your.
I mean, watching people with slimes against humanity.
Well, the problem with the slimes is that they are 0/0s, and they would enter without counters. Right. And so if you were to double the number of slimes you have, they don't retain any. They would all die immediately.
But the next slime you play, right? So the way things get ordered, I think there's actually a way to abuse that.
I don't know. I don't think so. But Yeah, I don't think there are a lot of other cards like that where you can absolutely abuse that. I now that you mention it, I kind of want to go Sultai Rat Colony with that. I think that would just be
There
really
are
nice.
cards. There are cards that mean that things you have enter with an extra plus. So like if
Sure.
you've got like Metallic Mimic out, right, and you've named
Yeah,
all those slimes come in with a counter,
that's true.
which
That could be
means the
fun.
next slime you play
Would see all those
counts
uses.
all the slimes. Right?
Yeah,
And that's really where you start getting like abusing things going on, right?
that does sound
committing a
fun.
crime.
Yep, I'm here for that. Absolutely. Yeah. No, super fun. So yeah, this is honestly the Oko that we always wanted, because previous Oko was just a little too pushed in a couple of different ways. And it created this like hyper efficient planeswalker that was playable into vintage, you know? And so I don't know, that was problematic, obviously, hence all the bans. But this one I feel like it's dialed back so that it's now very efficient. There's no removal mode on it at all. They didn't even try. It was like, nope, we're not doing that. You know, it's flavorful in that if you're committing crimes, you're going up cards. Otherwise, you're just getting really good card selection, and you get the opportunity to fill your graveyard, which I'm always here for. And yeah, that ultimate is just, it's just big commander style Simic nonsense, which, I mean, there's always a market for that. Yeah. There's always a market for that. So
probably the best Simic planeswalker we've seen.
It's in the conversation. I think it's quite solid. Yeah.
I'm not unfond of some of the cures we've had, but the cures we've had, I don't think they've been about some niche parts of the pie. They haven't really been about being Simic, right? And I think Oko, this is the meld of blue and green that we always wanted, right? Let's draw our cards, right? And let's make beasts.
Absolutely.
Oh, and let's double the number of beasts we've got so we can smash your face with them.
Absolutely.
So I think that this is the Simic commander the Simic planeswalker that a lot of us have been waiting for, who are kind of Simic fans.
Right.
And of course, we're getting talent. Like I think the other thing that we can't really talk about yet is because we don't know the card. But I believe Kellen is staying Simic after crossing the Omen path.
Oh, that'll be interesting to see. Yeah.
So we're getting that. I think that clash between good guy, bad guy.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see
how
that plays out.
Going to get pulled into this, which I think is interesting. So
apparently aging 20 years seems to be part of it, according to the art. And the art, goodness. Kellen is very much an adult, or looks significantly different to where they've aged. So I'm curious how eventually they write into the story how much time's passed since Karlov Manor, or do the Omen paths just casually age you as you enter the Blind Eternities where you shouldn't be? Who knows?
I mean, that is because in the story, there's only a couple of months, I believe, between Kellen the Fey-Blooded and Kellen Inquisitor Prodigy, but that looks like at least a 5-year, if not 10-year difference. And I don't know. I highly doubt that we're actually going to hear a justification for that. But it will be interesting to see I
would say being Fey is probably justification enough, right? Like,
which is funny because I would have imagined that would have the opposite effect, but I don't know. Yeah.
But historically, the Fey have always sort of been able to appear as they wish, right?
Fair. Yeah.
And he's only half Fey, I think. So I think that should be interesting, sort of, to see how that works. But definitely. He doesn't look, the art I've seen, he doesn't look much older than 25 or 26, which, God only knows what that really means, right? That could still be a child.
Totally.
But I've seen something for Thunder Junction, and he doesn't. He definitely looks a little older than he also looks. Dare I say it? He looks more white than he has, and I'm not sure I like that.
Yes,
I'm a little disappointed with that. Like, actually, I'm a lot disappointed with that. I'm gonna just right out there and say that I'm not happy with Kellen getting whitewashed.
That is a bummer. Yeah,
that bothers me quite a bit. That problem in the next set.
Yeah.
We just have all animals, so we don't have to worry about what's
Indeed,
being
yeah, in Bloomborough, it's all good. But yeah, but we actually have a couple of things that are coming between here and Bloomborough as well, and we're running long, so I want to be kind of aware of that. There've been some killer banter, but while we're here, I mean, we got Carlo on the line. I have to ask. So we have Assassin's Creed coming up, right? This is a Universes Beyond product that is going to be modern legal. They're giving it the Lord of the Rings treatment, and then Commander, all that jazz.
Yep.
And this is, if you're not familiar with Assassin's Creed, it is a video game series where you actually, you are a character who is entering the minds of their ancestors, and you're basically traveling throughout time and experiencing kind of historical fiction that involves a lot of very popular historical figures. And so this is an excuse for them to just print cards that are just people who existed throughout history. Including,
and an excuse for me to lose a lot of money to buy this product.
I don't know what you're talking about. It's not like there's going to be a Leonardo da Vinci card or anything. Oh wait, no, there totally is, and it's going to be one of the serialized cards in this set.
First of all, I'm in love with Leonardo da Vinci, just being the history buff that I am. But also to be immortalized in a Magic card. Is something that pulls on my strings, and so naturally that means I have to spend a lot of money on this product to make sure that not only do I have like every variation of Leonardo da Vinci that may be in these booster packs, but the serialized version comes in Italian, which definitely pulls on my strings, and there's only going to be 500 of them. So 500 Leonardo da Vinci Magic the Gathering cards in existence in the native language, in collector boosters, right? Because that's how you get these, which we already know are going to be expensive because it's a straight to modern set, and all of that stuff.
100%. And this card, straight up, could be like a reprinted Grey Ogre. It doesn't matter. It's Leonardo da Vinci. This will be valuable. Like,
it could be a 3/3 with no abilities. And,
and people would still lose their mind for it. And in the serialized version that is going to show up in Italian, it's actually him painting the Mona Lisa, like mid-paint. Like, what? We haven't even talked about the mechanics. We're just gushing about this. Anyway.
I think it should have been the Vitruvian Man, but that's just me.
Ooh, okay. That would have been good. Yeah.
Because, I mean, which Mona Lisa is he painting there? Like that's probably the most controversial piece of art of Leonardo they could have picked, right? Like,
yeah.
Sure.
But, so for me, when I was little, I was in love with, this whole trove of Renaissance scholars. And I wanted to grow up to be a Renaissance man. And to my father's credit, that was not a bubble he decided he wanted to burst. He just let that go. So I learned to write with both hands, forwards and backwards, in mirror. And to this day, I can write with both hands at the same time, and my writing is indistinguishable between the hands.
Wow.
And that was all Leonardo da Vinci, right? Because I was like, and I was too young to have understood so how problematic some of those figures were and weren't. I was just in love with the idea that this was somebody who was as much poet, as mathematician, as artist, as humanitarian, this idea that one didn't have to choose art over science. That in some levels they're intertwined and indistinguishable. So for me to see a Leonardo da Vinci card, I mean, that's what that means to me. Is that this academic scientist artist has come full circle enough in terms of popularity and salience that it's now in a Magic the Gathering set as a Magic the Gathering card. Because they didn't, of all the things in Assassin's Creed, they didn't have to pull out Leonardo da Vinci, right?
Not necessarily, no. Yeah.
I mean, there were things, there were characters they left out of Fallout, right?
Sure, of course.
People are still like, we really wish we'd had this person in Fallout. So I just really appreciate that, this card. See, the artwork that you're showing on the screen right now, that's Leonardo to me.
Yes.
Right? That inventor thinking, I mean, the art is nice, but that's the card that encapsulates the role of Leonard for me. So I'm excited for that, which means I'm extra excited for Carlo because I know that Carlo is even more of a history person than I am. And so I wish all the serialized numbers to Carlo.
Oh yeah, we're definitely gonna be opening booster packs,
And
so
I will do 1 for 1. If I open a serialized one, it is yours. You just have to replace it with a regular Leonardo.
not a problem.
Yeah.
The other legendary figure that they have spoiled so far is Cleopatra. And Cleopatra is Golgari, which is interesting. And that is Cleopatra exiled pharaoh. And so while it's a pretty sweet card just in general, and I love the artwork both on the regular card and of course the extended foil serialized version, which by the way comes in Greek as the language on it, and it's also serialized.
And if the audience is wondering, she's in Greek because she's a Ptolemaic.
Yes,
she comes from the Ptolemaic line, which comes to us from Greece.
Love
Just in case people are like going, "What the? She was Egyptian." No, from Egypt. She was actually from the Ptolemaic line. So,
rock on.
Yeah, and so it's great to see. I love these cards. I love that we can play with our historical figures as our commanders and commander. But this is also a straight modern set, so it'll be interesting to see how many of these cards have an effect on the modern metagame, considering the modern metagame is very wild right now. I mean, Cascade is like king, basically. Again, we're playing as many free spells as possible. So, maybe playing a 4-mana Golgari creature at 2/4 isn't the greatest. And some of the cards might be.
When you can delve for an extra turn, like.
And speaking of delving for an extra turn, Temporal Trespass is seeing a reprint in this set.
That was the card I had in mind when I said that. So, good segue.
Yeah, and I think this is. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like the first reprint of Temporal Trespass.
That's my belief.
In a while.
I think that's correct. Yeah. Actually, it looks like it's the only reprint. Like, it hasn't seen a reprint since. This is his first time. So it was last in Fate Reforged. That was it. Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, a lot of the cards that they spoiled from this set. I mean, obviously you have the different Ezio versions. That we'll obviously go into more detail later. Later on, maybe on future podcast episodes. But
perhaps, we'll probably do a deep dive.
Mono Black Ezio is a 5-color commander because of the text. We are seeing a reprint of Sword of Feast and Famine into the set that isn't like a special thing. Where they have had, like in the past, you had the artifacts from Kaladesh that you had a Sword of Feast and Famine that was worth $1 bajillion. Or you get to see it in different types of artworks of Sword of Feast and Famine, which is pretty nice.
Yep.
Heck yeah.
So I'm definitely excited for that. And so I look forward to seeing what's going to be in the rest of the set.
Kind of they also that they haven't shown it, but they also do Body and Mind.
Ooh, that'd be cool.
I think other one that would belong flavorfully into the set. And it's definitely one that needs reprinting. So
sure. I mean, this is one of those that a lot of these swords you can't print them enough. You can't reprint them too much. So yeah, keep them coming. Absolutely. Yeah. And I gotta say, I was really impressed. Assassin's Creed is one of those franchises that I played a little bit of. There was a time in my life, around the time the first Assassin's Creed game came out, when I wanted to be a video game journalist. And so I was following some of that stuff and really like playing it a lot. And I had a lot of thoughts about that first one, let me tell you what. By the time 2 came out, I had fallen off of that. That dream had more or less died. And here I am, a decade later streaming on Twitch. But anyway, or a decade and a half, 2 decades? 2 decades. Old. Anyway, age.
I think I think they may have treaded the. I mean, because we're probably gonna, like, it's the same problem I'm worried about in Thunder Junction. We've seen some of the obvious cards.
Right.
But there's a lot of problematic themes in Western stuff.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing where the Assassin's Creed series contains its share of problematic takes on history and culture. And so I'm sort of hoping by what I've seen and how they're focusing that, they may be treading that line very carefully this time around. So
it looks like these cards are leaning into less of the so far from what we've seen, it looks like they're not trying to lean into kind of the the more political aspects of the history, and they're going for more of the iconic moments from the game. Like you got like the Hidden Blade, for example, which mechanically just does exactly what you think it's going to do, right? It's just, it enters the battlefield, you can auto-equip it, it gives first strike, it has flash, it's hidden, and like, all right, cool. It's a combat trick, of course. Little things like that. I gotta say, I don't think they're gonna lean too heavily on some of the more problematic elements. I will be shocked if we see that stuff. Also, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention. So we were mentioning Cleopatra, and I mentioned my daughter right now is really into ancient Egypt. It's a fascination of hers, and just casually I mentioned, so there's gonna be a Cleopatra Magic card, and she just very casually said, and you're going to get it for me, right? It's like, of course.
That's right.
I didn't mention the serialized version. But yeah.
Did she like all the unicorns we sent home for her?
Yes, she was very grateful for that. Yes. Yeah, she didn't appreciate the nuance that we were actually in a draft and you passed it to me, but yeah, she did appreciate getting them. Yes, thank you. Oh my goodness.
I passed on the unicorn because I wanted Ham's daughter to be happy. No.
Yeah, and I appreciate it. She appreciates it very much. Yes.
The thing with Cleopatra, though, is like, flavor-wise, it's all wrong, right? Like, as a historical, she should be blue. She should be blue and white, as a matter of fact, right?
Ooh, okay. Why do you say that?
Because Cleopatra was one of the best educated rulers to ever sit on a throne. Sure. She was a scientist. She was a scholar. Like, and that gets lost in behind this idea that, she committed suicide because like there's this whole story overlaid over the actual history that obscures just how fiercely intelligent and well educated that woman was to do what she did. And I'm sad to see that. I mean, I don't have anything against Golgari. I mean, I mean,
it's fun, sure.
My Golgari Grixis Mean Girl moments all the time. But, as excited as I am to see Leonardo as a blue card, I am that sad that Cleopatra is not getting the essentially the Azorius treatment that she should get. That if you look at her record and the things she did in her reign and who she was as a person, she's much more blue-white than she is green-black.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Now, I am not a particularly good student of history. I'll own this. My understanding was she was incredibly ambitious. And I can appreciate that she was smart in how she went about it. I totally get that. But would black not be justifiable? Green feels like a stretch. I'm with you there, but I'm just curious.
So, in my reading, I don't like there was nothing nefarious about who Cleopatra, right? Like she made straight up alliances. She didn't go around murdering, right? Like I don't see a huge black kind of end to that, or I certainly don't see the combination black-green.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe blue-black if you want to really press it, right?
Sure.
But I just think that with everything she accomplished as a ruler, right? And by all accounts, not only was she she was a good ruler, right? I mean, she took Egypt to heights that the extents and borders of the Egyptian empire under her rule, really weren't seen again.
Interesting.
Right? Like, so that's the thing for me is as a student of history and as somebody who's kind of sick of seeing, like as somebody who's non-white, non-male, I really hate seeing instances in which, women can take their true places, get kind of pulled back a little bit.
Sure.
So that just makes me a little sad, but otherwise I love the fact she made it into the game. She was important in the Assassin's Creed games for sure. And maybe if you look at it through the Assassin's Creed lens,
I was going to ask about
a little
that.
more accurate.
Yeah,
but I think this may have been a good chance to correct some of those misapprehensions about, this idea that she was this like weird seductress and that's how she did her thing. Well, no, that's not how she did her thing at all. She did her thing. She spoke more languages than anybody else, and just was better at just her education was just so much more thorough, right? Like this woman wasn't pharaoh by accident. This woman was raised to be in charge, right?
Sure.
Like. So that anyway, that's my rant.
No,
it's
all good.
No, it's cool stuff. No, and I was just curious, like, did they take a lot of liberties in adapting her for Assassin's Creed, and this is meant to be a good image of that, or it's a.
I
she
think
was in Odyssey. I haven't played that, so I can't speak to it.
The only version of Cleopatra that most people have in their head is what Liz Taylor gave us.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Like that's the popular cultural image of Cleopatra. Is Cleopatra the seductress who lost her shit because her lover got killed, right? Which is not at all borne out by history and research. And I mean there's new research coming out constantly that is sort of setting those the fact that we haven't found her tomb, right? It says a lot as well, because she just was not going to hand her body over, right? So she had made some fairly complex plans to kind of deal with all of that. But
very cool.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you for kind of providing that background, and I appreciate the rants. That's it's good stuff. Honestly, that's one of the joys of long form podcasts is we can go a little bit, which I definitely appreciate. But I'm looking at the clock and I realize we have run long today, which is lovely. That's totally fine. There are cards. So we talked about Assassin's Creed. We talked about Thunder Junction. There are cards from Modern Horizons 3 as well as Bloomborough that also got previewed. Those releases are some time away, so we have multiple podcasts between now and then. Don't worry, we will talk about them. But I think right now we're going to go ahead and bring it on in for a landing. So let's go around the horn and let's let people know where they can find you. Oh,
just before that, would be remiss actually if I didn't shout out the Clue Party from Friday night.
Oh yeah.
Ooh, yeah, please.
Yeah, because I realized that you guys weren't there, and
correct.
So I was gonna go with Hedology and Edge Case, and then they ditched me, and I had to go by myself because he bought the ticket, and I was like, okay, well if I don't go, I'm gonna feel really crappy about not going. And it was held at the House of Blues. Which is absolutely a huge venue with lots of little rooms and side things. So they set up this murder mystery, and you had these cards, and you had to find your way to all these secret little rooms hidden throughout the House of Blues, and different rooms had different things in them, and you kind of had to look down at your card, and as you found things, you crossed them off your card, and then you were left with 3 things you didn't find. And that was who did it, where they did it, and what they did it with. And then when you took that back to the other room you had to find, which is the room with the mixed drinks, which was the best room.
Excellent.
You got given a collector booster of Ravnica. Now, I did all that hobbling around on a cane, and the guy looked at me and he felt really bad and he gave me 2 collector packs because that was the least accessible magic activity I think I've ever done.
Oh, wow.
Because I think my watch said I walked like 2.5 miles, just
believe it.
trying to solve that mystery inside of this like little room place.
Wow.
But yeah, so Wizards did a really whoever put that on for Wizards did like a really good job of doing that, and what was really great about it is it forced you to move around the venue. So you couldn't just kind of you got a chance to mix and mingle for way different reasons than you normally mix and mingle, right? Like you would just show up in a room and there would be 6 people sitting at a table in that room doing whatever, and you had to get by them to check to see what the thing in the room was. So you had to kind of interact. And so that was actually really kind of cool. So I did want to shout that out as something that happened at MagicCon. And I've been to a couple, like I was at PAX for the 20th anniversary and that event. And I've been to a couple other events. And, you know, the DJ notwithstanding, I think this is probably my favorite themed event that Magic has put on around releasing a set.
Nice.
That whole idea that it felt very Clue-like, and I got to go around with a couple of members from Loading Ready Run until they were moving way faster than me, and then I just fell back with somebody else. But yeah, so that was the other thing that they put on that I think was super successful. So
That's awesome.
yeah,
I love it. All right. Well, yeah. So thank you for shouting that out, and thank you for sharing that, and thank you for joining us and chatting about MagicCon and all these fun cards that we have coming up.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, Lachlan Ball, the floor is yours. Could you let the folks at home know where they can find you on the internet and what they can expect to find when they get there?
So on Twitter, you can find me as Lachlan. You can find pithy comments and me reposting things to boost my friends. Because I like to do that, and occasionally funny jokes or jokes that I think are funny. And then on Twitch, you can find me as LlachNess. And mostly you can find me doing Two-Headed Giant games on Tuesday nights with my friends and people that I want to help become friends, because 2 teams enter, 4 friends leave. It's a little variety streaming. I just like to play video games. I like to hang out with my friends. And you know, my heart belongs to MagicJank, so I'm so honored that you asked me to join you tonight, because I truly the people that I met from the team and getting to hang out with you guys in person really did make my MagicCon. So big props to you and Ari and everyone else for welcoming me and making me feel like I was part of the team, even if only for a weekend. So
thank you so much. Oh my goodness. Yeah, and Carla, how about you? Where can people find you? Yeah.
So you can find me at @cfavretto_jr on the internet. Whether that's on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, because that platform still exists. But we are on all of those platforms.
Wait, who knew?
Huh.
Yeah. So you can find those in the link below. On Twitch, primarily I focus on standard content, playing lots of viewer decks and being a little bit more competitive this last couple months because it is RCQ season. So hopefully we can qualify in one of those soon. So you can check that out over on my Twitch channel, but I love to play Commander as well as all other forms of Magic, so you will see me somewhere around the internet doing those things.
Love it. And I'm Hammox42 on all the things, or simply at Hawks42 if you're on TikTok or Twitter. Yeah, and I'm doing all kinds of stuff out there, including short form. It is 100% a pitch meeting knockoff, but doggone it, it's a good format. So it does what it works. But yeah, so thank you everybody for tuning in. Lachlan, thank you so much for joining us. I'll make sure to put links and everything in the descriptions of this so you can find us on all the various places. And yeah, thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. We'll catch you on the next one.
Catch you later.